Aloha, I'm Kelly Boy Dilima, and you're watching Aloha in the Making. My mom is from Canada. She moved here when she was 18 years old. My dad, he's from Honolulu. My grandfather was pure Portuguese. My grandmother was pure Hawaiian. He grew up here in Honolulu. They met here, I think, down in Waikiki was the story. Growing up as a youngster, we moved around quite a bit. Actually, when my mom gave birth to me, we were in Hauula. The story is that she got into a ambulance and drove to Kapiolani Hospital and had me. I stayed there in Hauula for a little while, and then mom and dad moved on. But my most memorable recollection of growing up, we moved to Waianae. We moved to Makaha, and I went to Makaha Elementary. And I remember those years quite a bit. And then mom and dad separated during that time in Waianae, and mom moved to Aiea, I believe, and my dad and I, we moved to. Oh, you know what? We moved to the Makaha plantation. That's right. It was he and I living up there in Makaha Valley for a long while, and then there was a time when mom and dad kind of got back together. We moved to the Kaimaki area. We were up on Sierra Drive on Manalani Heights, and that was another memorable time. I met a whole bunch of guys. We grew up over there. We were riding skateboards down that down Manalani Heights, and then they split up again, and I remember me and dad moving into Waikiki, and then mom and my sister Becky moving into Aiea, and that was the last. Mom and dad never really got back together, but they were married, and we just moved around so much. I went to so many different schools. I think I counted one time how many different schools I went to. It was 9 different schools that I I went to in my all my years of education. Teachers that really raised me, people that come to my mind a lot, that really loved on me, because I was a real Kolohe kid. I was really hard to manage, and you had to, as a teacher, I think you'd have to go above and beyond your pay scale to, what I mean, to nurture the kind of kid that I was. Just, what I mean, I don't know. I was just, Kolohe, not mean or but just when Kolohe I was a handful, and I remember from Makaha Elementary, one of the teachers I remember was Mrs. Tuine. And Mrs. Tuine was a teacher that, loved me, and she would always, encourage me. I was really young. This was elementary, so that's all that I remember really about her. And then I would have to say, and I don't want to not mention anybody, but the next thing that I think of right away in my mind was Kaimaki Intermediate. When I was going to Kaimaki Intermediate, Miss Lau. Mrs. Lau was my first Hawaiiana teacher. She loved me. She loved on me, and she knew that, I was a problem child, but I respected her. She was this small little Hawaiian lady from Hana, Maui, and she always, she would take the extra time. She was like, "Boy, you can learn. You can." She taught me the Lord's Prayer in Hawaiian, and she taught us Kaulana Napua. I mean, we were, she taught us so much in Kaimaki Intermediate. And then I guess my next couple of teachers that I really remember, one was Mr. Kaneda, and the other one was Mr. Lu. I remember these teachers, I guess at that time they noticed that I have had a gift, a gift other than causing trouble, a gift that maybe I could use and call on, you know what I mean, instead of being this kolohe kid, you know what I mean, tapping in on this talent, this that I never knew that I really had, but that I found. This is where I found that gift, that God given gift, I call it. And these are the guys that help me, build on that gift and make me realize. I remember Mr. Canetta taking us to Jarrett Intermediate, and that was the first time that I ever sang on a microphone. That was intermediate. No, that was high school. So we were singing for intermediate schools, and I I was in ninth grade, I think, and it was Ohano Mele with Mr. Canetta. And then Mr. Lu, he was a band teacher, so I never really was in Mr. Lu's class. But Mr. Lu, I remember this guy, always, chasing me on the campus. This guy, Dilima, come on, get to class, boy. And Mr. Lu and Canetta was real tight. So I think they was working hand in hand, you know what I mean, to kind of, you know, kind of keep me in check. In Makaha especially, I was bullied a lot because I was the only white kid in Makaha Elementary. I mean, really, I was like the sore thumb inside there. So everybody wanted to try me out. You know what I mean? Everybody wanted to beat on me but my dad's Hawaiian side is all from Waianae, so all my cousins was, local Hawaiian kids. You know what I mean? That's all my first cousins. And I'm the only white boy in freckle face, redhead, and of course, bro, even though they know your cousins and even though, you got on reputation, your family got on reputation down in Waianae, they still like try you out. You know what I mean? They still going to try you out. And yeah, I fought a lot. I ran a lot, so, but it was all, it was, when I moved to intermediate school and into high school and when I got into the music, I tell you, the music solved more than a lot of one or two problems in my life. After I started playing the music and it was like, wow, this kid, you know what I mean? Like he jam, you become the popular student or the well-known one. It's the jammer, you know what I mean? This the guy that's jamming, so, yeah. So struggles and that was, and triumphs in life. In my house, mom and dad, I remember a lot of fighting. I remember a lot of crying. I remember, kind of my mom getting beat up and I was always trying to escape that, that lifestyle or escape the situation, just being, so, and so was my dad. My dad was always on the move, moving from this job and going to that job, and he was not a lazy man. He was a hustler. You know what I mean? This guy, he was a hustler, and so was my mom, a very hardworking woman, and but I think that it was this lifestyle that he led. You know what I mean? Where there was not a solid foundation in our family. It wasn't something that was you could come home to and just you know what I mean. It'd always be like, okay, mom and dad, you know what I mean. Just didn't know what you was gonna expect when you came home, and we had highs and lows, in our lives. We was on welfare. We was sometimes my dad had good jobs and we was on you know what I mean. Was living a good life, and then we went through hills and valleys. I remember now that I'm the age that I am and I look back in my past, yes, I was a troubled child for sure because of what I saw in my family life.
So trying to cope with
trying to cope with all of this hostility sometimes. I mean, there was plenty of love, but I'll give you an example. When I was in Waianae, I remember my dad not coming home on Christmas Eve, and my mom waking me up. And back in those days, we had CB radios, and my dad had his handle, his CB radio. I had my handle, and my mom made me go into the garage, go under the covers into the boat, turn on the CB radio, and try and contact dad because he wasn't home. You know what I mean? He was out doing whatever, his thing. And then him coming home and then them getting into a big fight, and this kind of stuff. Oh, there's so many stories and so many things that flood my mind, but that was just one of the examples. Sometimes my dad would be there and sometimes he wouldn't be there, and then sometimes my dad was the only one in my life, and then my mom wasn't inside of my life at times, when they separated. So I had one split kind of family life, you know what I mean? Like I was kind of really torn, you know what I mean? And I believe that the kid that I was trying to be and act out was you know what I mean, that was doing that to me. They sent me to psychiatrists even as one child. I went to psychiatrists too, because they were like, what's going on with this kid? You know what I mean? Why is he acting out like this? And I mean, maybe they should have when kind of examined their life and to see that maybe it was the way they was living their life, you know what I mean, that was affecting the kid. You know what I mean? So that's pretty much, I think, yeah, I was searching, I was reaching, I was just, you know what I mean? And if I couldn't, I was acting it out, you know what I mean? All of my frustrations, all of my, I put it on everybody else. My dad was in the military. He was a black belt. This bugger could hit you, and he was this Hawaiian that was pretty insane, and he knew how to hit. He was a boxing commissioner for Hawaii back in the day, so he knew how to box. He knew how to hit. He trained boxers, and his tactics was pretty crazy. When he lick you, bro, I mean, bro, you're gonna get donuts, and some of the things that he did, one time he bought me a brand new surfboard, and we lived in Waikiki, and I was surrounded around buildings, and I cut out of school for one whole week. I mean, I deserved the punishment that I got, but it was a kind of real play with the mind kind tactics, and the week before he had bought me this surfboard, I cut out the whole next week surfing. That, of course, the teachers called and they said, Mr. DeLima, your son never come to school for one whole week. So I come home. He's home early. My dad would work 19-hour days at the Pacific Beach Hotel. And I came home and he said, hey, brother, where you went? And I said, oh, where you was today? He told me like that. I tell him, oh, Dad, I was at school. Lie. Where you was the day before? Oh, I went to school, Dad, and lie again, And, bruh, this guy looked at me and he goes, I got one call from the school that you never go all week long. He goes, we had this storage room down at 303 Liliuokalani Avenue. And that's where I stashed my surfboard. That's where I had my towel. That's where I had my change of clothes. And he told me, he looked at me and he said, go grab the surfboard. And I said, huh? So I'm thinking, bro, this guy gonna make me put this surfboard away and that kind. He tells me, get the surfboard and bring him up. I brought him up to the 5th floor. We lived on the 5th floor. And he said, take him out on the balcony. And I'm making up all kinds of things like, well, he gonna make me leave him out on the balcony so that I cannot hide him and I cannot go cut out and stuff like that. Nope. He proceeded to tell me, go into the closet and grab his saw. He had one hand saw that granted, now this guy just bought this surfboard for a couple $100, okay? That's how much one surfboard costed back in those days, couple $100. Brand new. It was a Downing surfboard, and Downing is still there on Wailai. And he told me saw the surfboard in half. And I don't know if you guys ever heard one saw and foam and fiberglass before, but I gotta tell you, that's the loudest noise that you're gonna ever hear when you sawing this. And he told me to saw this surfboard in half. I'm crying. I got buildings all around. The thing is echoing the buildings. People is coming off their balconies looking at me like, what the heck is this kid doing? And I'm, and he made me saw that surfboard in half. And I tell you, bro, oh man, you talk about, like, I don't know, bro, like maybe, in the long run, you're gonna get maybe some issues or whatever in life as growing up, I don't know. But yeah, but I like to say that, bro, when we was younger, I mean, in our days, our skin was a little bit more thicker, but I mean, really the long-term effects, you know what I mean, probably did some pretty damaging things to me in my life. You know what I mean? Like, one thing that I'd like to share that he did to me that I don't think I ever shared before, but this was pretty crazy. I remember using a toilet and was living in Waianae. And my dad always used to say, when you go and, use the bathroom and you using toilet paper, yeah, to wipe yourself, no use too much, okay? And I said, okay, Dad. And I would flood the toilet, because I used too much toilet paper. And I think one day he was just fed up with it, and basically I used too much toilet paper and I stuffed up the toilet. And he came flying into the bathroom and he grabbed my head and the toilet was overflowing and he would stick my head in the toilet and was drowning me in the toilet bowl, and I was like, bruh, this guy, I mean, as a kid, I don't know what's going on, you know what I mean? But I remember that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? That was like, really, I don't want to portray my dad as a bad person. This guy, he loved me. I know that he loved me. Everything that I could possibly want in life. When I got into the music and stuff like that, this guy was my biggest supporter. I think he supported me so much because finally I found something that, I was probably good at, you know what I mean? That I did well, and I made him proud. I would say, this is what I would honestly say, and what worked for me was find a passion in life. Find something that's you're passionate about. For me, it was music, and for everybody else, it's not. Maybe it's not your passion, but I mean, you could change the world, by even helping others and talking to them about being bullied or being abused by family members. If you talk about it and you say to yourself, maybe because of the situation I've been in, I can help somebody else, make it easier for them. If that's your passion, but in anything that you do, sometimes, if you dwell on your past and all of the negative, you're going to grow up negative. And I think for a long time I carried that, negativity. And man, I was this. And for those of you guys that been through trauma, really, whatever you've been through in your life, there's a way out, and sometimes it's going to take, a long time to battle through it. But, I mean, for me personally, I found God, I found the Lord, and He's the one that conquers all my fears, and today I'm a different person.